Our road stop takes us to Dallas, Pennsylvania, and the Back Mountain Brewing Company. I'm with Clay. Clay, how you doing today?
Pretty good. You, Jeff?
I'm doing great. In front of us, we have already what looks like a nice, hazy, juicy IPA, which we're going to try a little bit later. Can't wait. I can smell it already. You know me. I'm a hophead. But before we get into that, let's talk a little about your business. You've been here for about a year now. Tell me about it.
So we moved home in 2020 and just basically got right into getting this thing going. Did some school out in Washington State, did some brewing out there while we lived out there, and decided to move home to the Back Mountain and basically start our own little brewery out here.
And you saw a need for good craft beer in this area, and here you are, right?
Here I am. We looked at, basically we could have sat out there. We were looking at staying in Washington. Had a couple buddies that we were going to open a brewery together. We talked about it while I was in school. And then I looked back home. We came home to visit a couple times, and I was like, man, we could do this back here, and I don't have to fight with 5 to 10 other breweries in the area, and we could just, set up shop in Dallas and make it happen.
Were you a home brewer?
I was. I started home brewing in 2011. Basically self-taught. I went to the local homebrew store. I got The Complete Joy of Home Brewing. I got that book. I got a starter kit.
I have that book too.
Yep, it's an amazing book. I recommend it to anybody. Started making beer in my garage. Extract, of course. The first batch we had. Didn't know anything about fermentation. I just read the instructions, throw some yeast in there and it'll go. And we had it sitting in a cupboard, and we had friends over for dinner that night, and the airlock clogged up with yeast and krausen and blew up all over inside the cupboard. And that was my first real experience with fermentation. And from there, it just kind of took off.
I feel your pain. It's happened to me too.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
It does. My wife still complains about our basement still smelling like hops.
Yeah.
This is 5 years going on.
Yeah.
So after your first attempt, you just loved brewing so much, so you continued.
Yeah, I did.
So you did have a successful home brewing for a while, right?
I did. I really got into it. I enjoyed the competition aspect of it. I enjoyed going into and having a BJCP judge pick a beer apart.
So after you've been brewing for a while at home, your friends are telling you they love it. You have judges telling you they love it. You made the leap.
Yeah. Your friends are always going to tell you your beer is good because they're drinking it for free. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You could have some trash swill, and they're going to be like, "Oh, this is great, man. 7.5%."
We have the same kind of friends, I think. Is it boozy? Will it make me feel a little buzzed? Yeah, sure. Okay, it's fine.
It's good. It's perfect after 3 of them. Yeah.
So, did you win any awards?
I did. I've got homebrew medals, certificates, and stuff. They're all in boxes at home. I'd like to start competing on a professional level. It's nice to see when you go into a brewery and you see those medals hanging there. It's
absolutely.
They kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. It's going to be a good beer when we walk in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you walk in here, you're going to get a few good beers that are on tap. Let's talk about that. What do you usually have on tap?
We try to really keep the tap menu diverse. Tap number 1, I have a brown ale on right now. It's either going to be a brown ale, it's going to be an Irish red, or it's going to be our Dunkelweizen, which I like to keep that. It's not it's not a stout, it's not a porter, but it's the darker maltier style beer. I have the Farmhouse on, which is like an Americanized version of a saison. I use a hybrid yeast on that, so it doesn't get as dry as a true saison. People really seem to like it. It's kind of like, instead of going in for that super dry saison, which I would expect when I get a saison, this is more approachable to a lot of people. I have the blonde ale on. The golden ale on right now. That'll swap out between the cream ale. So we have something light, like our introductory to craft beer. So when people come in, they're like, I don't have, I drink Miller. I'm like, okay, try this golden ale, try this cream ale. We have a pale ale that we swap out every now and again. We have one tap dedicated to our IPAs. It's either going to be our West Coast IPA or the Dumbest Hazy, as we call it here. Always have an IPA on. You just have to.
So you like to run the whole spectrum of beers on your taps, because when someone comes in, they may not be a hophead like me. They may want a stout, and maybe in the middle of the summer, they still want a stout. You're going to give them a stout. And you mentioned before, when people come in here, they may not know much about craft beer. They may be a Bud Miller Coors guy. So you would suggest
a cream ale, the golden ale, something lighter. But I've had guys that come in there like friends of the family came in. They've only ever drank like Miller Coors and stuff, and they're hooked on like the farmhouse. Like they drink the farmhouse now. They drink the Dunkel, and they've never had a beer like that. And it's cool to see that where they're coming in and they're like, wow, that's really good.
There's a world of different flavors and tastes.
Oh yeah.
Like in front of us right now. What do we have in front of us right now? Let's talk a little about this.
This is the dumbest hazy. This is we were doing when we first opened. We were doing a true New England style IPA.
That's very popular right now. Is this type of beer?
Yeah.
So tell me about this beer. ABV, IBU. Let's talk about it.
The IBUs are sitting right around 30. I try to keep it pretty mellow on the bitterness when you're doing these. It's a basic 2-row. Flake barley oats grain bill, a little bit of rice hulls in there, and then we just hop it up. I'm starting to use the Lupo Max hops. It's a new thing coming out. They're twice as strong as normal pellet hops, so I can get the same flavor with the least amount of vegetal matter in the tanks. Makes it easy to clean, makes it easy to dry hop. Super easy beer. We use a traditional English style yeast strain for this because you get a little bit of the fruit from that. Doesn't dry it out as much as like your traditional American strains would. And we brew it just like you would a hazy. Like we basically mash in, make the beer, no hop additions throughout the boil. Whirlpool addition, a bunch of hops in there. And about 3 days in at high Krausen, we just dry hop the crap out of it. And
well, there's a great nose to this already. You know, everyone that watches the show knows me. I have to try it. I can smell it already.
Cheers.
Nice and balanced, hazy IPA. I like the fruit taste to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different than some of the other ones I've had. Really nice and a nice smooth finish, just like a hazy would be.
Yep.
Excellent. And the ABV on this would be about what?
7%.
Okay, so a little bit higher than the normal, but that's okay.
I try to go high on the alcohol with the IPAs and stuff, but then we have beers that are under 5% that I'll have on sometimes.
So yeah, there's something for everyone there. But let me say this about this beer here: you cannot taste that alcohol burn. Like sometimes when you get higher up, 7-8% or whatever, you get that little alcohol burn at the end. There's not that. So I call this one a little dangerous because it goes down. It goes down smooth. It's very, very good though. So let's talk about the business a little bit. Any events coming up in the fall that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, so you can check our Facebook page. Anything on social media. My wife handles everything pretty much front of the house and all the social media stuff. Does a great job. She'll put a calendar out each month, and on that calendar, generally we're going to have yoga on most Sundays. If it's not on that Sunday, it'll be on that Tuesday at night, so people can come in after work. It starts at 6. Every Thursday's trivia night, and then usually bands are Friday or Saturday, and we try to do 2 a month. So I know we're going to have with the Brewers Trail, we're going to have a special release beer. We're all going to go up collab at Breaker. So look for that coming out in the fall. I'm going to try to do an Oktoberfest lager this year. It's just the tank space with lagering is hard, and I don't want to, there's ways to cut corners with that, but I want a true Oktoberfest. So I'm still playing with the idea of doing something like that. And then we also have our pumpkin stout, which everyone really liked last year. That'll be coming out in October.
I got a question I have to ask. It's like saying what's your favorite kid, but you do have an answer to this. Your favorite beer?
Honestly, like I gravitate towards like my Kolsch, my cream ale, those lighter style beers. But sometimes, even in the middle of summer, I'm like, I want some of my stout. Like I just like a good American stout, and that's how I brew it. Like it's not an Irish stout, it's not a Guinness, it's an American stout. And between those, that's usually what I go to. Sometimes, I feel like drinking a hazy and then have a hazy.
So there's not really a beer that you don't like?
No, I mean, there's beer, like, I don't drink my fruit beer. I don't like fruit beers, but I make it because that's what people want to drink.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that. There's not a lot of beers I won't try at least once.
Yep.
I'll gravitate to the hoppier beers, of course, but yeah, like you said, sometimes I just want a stout.
Yep.
Back Mountain Brewing Company, that's our road stop for today. Check them out. You can check them out on Facebook also. Come see Clay and his wife. They make some great beer.